Hey, everybody, it's Dana with Coach Dana Inspires.com, and we are so excited that you're here with us today for Business Inspiration. We have a fabulous guest today, and that is Mason Harris. And we're going to go bigger, we're
Be
going to be
bolder.
bolder, and we're going to do better. And Mason is going to help us do that today, and that is super exciting. He is the Chutzpah guy. And if you don't know what Chutzpah is, we're going to get to that in just a second. But before we go into there, Mason, how are you? How are you doing?
I am great. It is truly a pleasure to be here because I love your energy. I love the enthusiasm. Um, Things are good. The economy's changing, business opportunities are changing. I just moved from my house of 30 plus years, which, by the way, I have a recommendation for the audience. Don't do it. Don't struggle over who to give that bottle opener that you bought on that wonderful vacation to New Jersey. Which of your kids? Let them decide when you're gone. Okay? Make it their problem.
Okay, well, love our children. Woohoo! Just let them pick all that stuff out. So you talk to business owners, you talk to your clients, you talk to businesses out there, and what are you hearing from them? Are they, we've been doing this for over a year, probably it's moving on to a year and a half now. So COVID, yay. How are they feeling? Are they feeling optimistic? Are they feeling like things are moving? What do you hear out there?
Well, again, it depends on the industry. Some industries we know thrived during this pandemic.
Yeah.
They were in the right place at the right time, or even better, they pivoted because they understood that they can't wait for things to change to impact their destiny. They had to make decisions.
Right.
I do a lot in the meetings and events industry, obviously, because you and I, we're both speakers, we're both authors. So we are dependent. Matter of fact, we probably get a lot of our energy from being in front of a live audience, right? So we want to get back. They are slowly recovering. Pockets of the country have done a better job than others in terms of holding the conventions, encouraging people to get together while ensuring and adding safety protocols.
Yeah.
Others are a bit slower, but over time, I hope sooner rather than later, I see more of a recovery there. We just
Yeah.
have to do what we can to prevent another setback.
Yeah. We're talking about being bolder and going bigger and doing better. So what can we do? Our viewers are mostly business owners, entrepreneurs, people who maybe manage or direct in larger corporations and things. So what can we do right now to really step out and do that bigger, better thing?
Sure. Well, I'll start with this. First, if I may, how would you define chutzpah? And by the way, you pronounce it perfectly. You're here, you are, you live in Cheyenne, CH, and it's Cheyenne. Here it's CH for chutzpah, and you go chutzpah. So you managed to make that switch that so many people fail at. Uh, but how would you define it?
Chutzpah is having that thing. People call it the it factor. It's having that it factor that you can, that person, when I say that guy has chutzpah, it's it's he can do anything. He's got that magic touch. And it's not, and as well as I know, it's not a magic touch. It isn't magic. It's the guy's worked hard. He's prepared. He's researched. It's not magic. It's just that he's ready, or she is ready. If she's got chutzpah, she's kicking butt because she can get out there and she can do it. So that's how.
And I agree with you. That it factor is so helpful for people who are trying to just be happier or achieve more success in life and in business. So the question for me became, how do you define that? I'd been speaking about chutzpah, and I originally created a model that I was giving to sales teams because, to a large extent, people who were most successful in sales seem to be willing to get turned down a lot, to face rejection, to handle objections. And I thought, that is chutzpah. They're willing to stretch boundaries in how far they'll pursue what they feel is a good opportunity when they know they have the proper solution for the client. Well, the pandemic hit. And again, as speakers, it's like we're looking at our calendar going, that's not happening. Better cross that one off. That one's not happening. I don't think so on this one. So I thought, okay, what better time then to get over my reluctance to actually write this book and put it in writing. Share the model that I was sharing in live presentations, but
Yeah.
now share it in a book form. And what I had done was I identified 8 key behaviors and characteristics of chutzpah. And chutzpah goes by many names. It's available and it's used by everybody. You don't have to be an Elon Musk to say, oh boy, that person has chutzpah, SpaceX and Tesla and the various companies, the boring company that he's done. To me, he's an example of chutzpah on steroids, by the way. I also identify 6 types of chutzpah. And the Jeff Bezos, there are people who just seem to move to higher levels.
Yeah.
But I give an example in the book of a cab driver in Spain during the early days of the COVID epidemic. And his chutzpah in going every day, not stopping work, knowing that many of the trips, if not most of the trips he was making, was to and from the hospital with people who either were fearful they had COVID and had to get to the hospital
Yeah.
quickly or were coming home. Well, he shares those same characteristics that an Elon Musk shares.
Yeah.
So to know that it's available to all of us, and again, we don't have to be super successful from a wealth standpoint or publicity to be there. I actually posed one question in the book, which is from a chutzpah perspective. What does Mother Teresa and Steve Jobs have in common? And basically, it's like, I bet you never heard that question before. The two of them in the same sentence regarding chutzpah. They share the same characteristics. Well, theirs was a different type of chutzpah. One
Yeah.
was more win-win chutzpah. I'm going to create something of tremendous value to individuals and society and businesses. The other was, I'm going to create something that will address a tremendous need in impoverished and disease-stricken communities. But the same skill set, the same characteristics were put to
I
use.
love that. Yeah, man, I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's and I would not have put those two in the same sentence, but when you say that, it's so obvious. And thank you for that, because I think it's a good visual for us to realize that it isn't making the bazillion dollars or having your name plastered all over every billboard in town. It could be the quiet, day by day, getting it done kind of actions that really will get you there. And that's worth the price of admission right there, kids. I'll tell you right now. So does this chutzpah thing, is it magic? Is it something that you have to work at, or do we already have it, and can we work on getting more?
We all have the basics that we sometimes use, but not necessarily intentionally. The idea behind the model is to say, look, these are the key behaviors. This is what will enhance your own, I believe, success, happiness as well. Because people have asked me, is this a business book or is it a self-help book? And my response is, I've never read a business book, and I've read many, many business books that wasn't a self-help book. So why are we separating these categories? You can be into self-help and still learn from business. You can be into business and learn from the everyday person, because we're all everyday people. So the 8 characteristics, I'll give you one example. Each of the letters of chutzpah stands for a different behavior. And then I tell stories of individuals or businesses, famous and not so famous, everyday people, to help the behaviors, the lessons resonate.
Okay.
The last one, the second H in the chutzpah, Chutzpah, is what I call humility.
Mm,
And you just wrote a book called You Have the Power of Kindness,
yeah.
which is extremely appealing to me. Because when I think of humility and kindness, I define humility in the book, and the way I use it with chutzpah is people who are, one, willing to accept responsibility when they've erred. If I have wronged you,
Yeah.
I need to step up and apologize and try and make things right.
Yeah.
That's part of chutzpah. By the same token, if you have wronged me and you do step up, I really have a responsibility as much as possible to say, hey, we're human, we make mistakes. I'm good. Let's move past this. Let's correct everything we can. The other element, say from a leadership standpoint, And a lot of the people who are listening, entrepreneurs, business people, they are leaders. Maybe they're small organizations, maybe they're medium sized, maybe they're large, but they also have to have humility, which for them involves sharing the accolades, sharing the successes. It wasn't, oh, I built this when I had a team of 30 people working under me, and I'm taking the credit when the time comes.
Yeah.
The old saying that success has a thousand fathers, while failure, or mothers in this case, while failure is an orphan. Well, humility means recognizing that we didn't get here by ourselves, and we don't accomplish all that we do by ourselves, although we may implement the behaviors and characteristics of chutzpah, which gives us a better jump on things. So when we talk about kindness, there is clearly a relation between the humility that I describe in my book and what you describe in your book.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that humility part of it, because I think it's so important for a great leader to be able to to have that humbleness. When you're leading, we always think of a leader as, the roaring lion or something. But boy, having humility brings a lot to the table, and as you say, sharing with those teams. And sometimes your team is a small team. Sometimes they're not directly working for you, but they're still there, and all of us can work on that. So you have 8 keys to really working on your chutzpah. And so do you those are listed in your book. Do you have a copy of your book handy dandy there that you could show us? Just you happen to have that.
I have 2 copies. No, actually, I've got about 30 copies, but I do have this copy so you can see it. I don't mean, well, first of all, this cover is not me. I'm not a designer, but I happen to love this cover. I can't tell if the viewers can really see it.
Yes,
But
yeah.
said, is he jumping off a cliff? No, chutzpah is a bridge.
I love it.
Enables you, if you're willing to stretch boundaries, if you're willing to take risks, if you're willing to fail even, you have a better chance of getting to the other side, to rising to a higher level. So that's the meaning behind the book. It is not about, the guy thinks the umbrella is going to slow him down when he falls. No, that's not it at all. The umbrella means that he watched the weather forecast. He heard it's going to rain, so he's not stupid. He might be a risk taker, but he's not stupid. So he brought the umbrella.
That is such a great illustration. I love that. And I like the bridge analogy. I think that is so perfect, because so many times we want to get someplace, and it isn't necessarily a leap into thin air. It's getting there mindfully, purposefully, using chutzpah. And because I was wondering about I didn't think it was jumping off a cliff, but my brain didn't go to bridge, and that makes it so much clearer. Thank you. That is so fabulous.
Your illustration is great. When President Kennedy announced that we were going to send a man to the moon, it wasn't a leap of faith. It was, this is our objective. How are we going to get there in X number of years? He said, by the end of the decade, we're going to be on the moon. And the technology, we had, I think, something like 6 to 10 hours of a human being, of an American astronaut being in space at that point. So it's not avoiding the big goals. It's stretching our comfort zone. It's stretching boundaries. And we accomplished that as a nation, because that became an objective. It's interesting. I was speaking with somebody not long ago who said, what do you think of chutzpah in this new era of cancel culture? Right? We have so many people who are jumping at us or jumping at others because of errors they may have made in their past. Things they did when they were much younger, not as mature, didn't have as big a worldview, but they're being punished now, a decade later, because of it. To me, we also spoke about the humility and the kindness, it gets right back to that. Kindness is forgiving. Kindness is saying we're human. Okay, let's learn from the mistakes. Let's not cancel people because of that.
Right.
And something from the past.
I think it's so true, because I hope that I am a completely different, mature, experienced person than I was when I was 20. I don't do the same things I used to do. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So if someone were going to judge me today for what I did when I was, 20, 22, 16, good grief. Yeah, that's part of the book. Yes, that's part of my life, but that it helped me become the person I am. But that's not who I am. And I think that has a lot of merit to it. And I thank you for that, because I'll tell you, Mason, I think sometimes we are and I like the word canceling. We just, that person's no longer a valid person because of what they did when they were 18 and showing off for their friends, and when you're 18, that's what you did, whatever, so, okay, we need another half hour for that one.
We can
Back,
do probably half an hour for each of the types of chutzpah.
I, I went, we absolutely could. So you have some examples from your book. Um, and we can talk about activities that we could do every single day. So what are these, what could that be, what would that look like? I want to work on my chutzpah. Can you give me something that I could do today and tomorrow to build up my chutzpah?
Okay, so let's start with the first C. Remember, I said that each of the
Yep.
letters, okay? Basically, we all start the day with certain objectives in mind, short term and long term. We think in terms of, I really should get this going. And
Yep.
then before you know it, it's Friday and we haven't touched it. And we go, I'm going to get to this next week. And before we know it, it's August and we still haven't touched it. And things just wait. People with chutzpah operate under this Latin phrase that we know as carpe diem.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
do it. Take advantage. Seize the opportunity. Yes, you want to be as sure as you possibly can, but don't let the lack of 100% assurance that you're going to succeed stop you from trying, because we learn from our failures. If we don't learn from our failures, then ooh, shame on us. We just missed a great opportunity to improve ourselves. If we speak out in a meeting and our idea is not welcomed immediately, and we use that as an excuse to not speak out in further meetings, but we
Yep.
just speak privately to friends and they share those ideas and they're accepted, we're left scratching our heads going, that was my idea. And actually, I've got even more depth to what they discussed.
Yeah.
So at the small level, do things you haven't done. Stretch your boundaries a little bit. As far as the H, or the first H in chutzpah, right after the carpe diem, the seize the moment, seize the day, I call that handling objections. There's not
Mm.
a good idea or even a bad idea that we have that if we speak to enough people, we won't hear, I don't think that's worth your effort. That's a big investment in time. Do you know how many people fail trying to do that? Or didn't somebody already open up a restaurant down there? Why do you think you're going to succeed? There are always going to
Mm.
be naysayers, and there are always going to be the people who are on your side going, go ahead, without thinking about it. Jump off that cliff. That's a
Yeah.
good idea. I think you'll make it, right? So you have to weigh both, but particularly the people with the objections, you either have to learn how to handle them. And in sales, that becomes a critical skill that you learn.
Yes.
Communicating, asking questions. Well, you're telling me you're not interested in this right now. Can I ask you, what has been the reliability on the software you've been using?
Right.
Have you had much downtime? What does that cost you and your team? So the second one is about handling objection. We need a better way to communicate in a non-threatening way that enables us to move beyond objections. The U, and again, so many of our watchers today and the people who will be privileged to get the free access to the video afterwards, which is, I think, everybody,
Yes.
they understand that the key to their success, entrepreneurs, small business owners, is understanding need, pain, and or uncovering need, pain, and opportunity. We're
Oh.
not going to be successful in our business if we don't figure out what people need, what they are suffering enough pain for that they will actually make the effort to acquire it. Because we may need a lot of things or want a lot of things, but we don't necessarily feel enough pain to make the decision to move forward. And
Yeah.
then opportunity is Uber is a great example.
Yeah.
When Uber came about and they were pitching their deck and saying, look, we're trying to raise money. We're going to be $1 billion company. They, one of the private equity firms hired an expert, a university professor, well renowned, to look at the business plan. He did, and he gave his opinion to that particular private equity company, which was basically, you know, there are already a lot of transportation alternatives. We have taxi cabs, we have limousines, we have public transportation, we have friends who drive. Do we really need something like this? And are they ever really going to reach $1 billion even in total valuation when the entire market is only worth 2 billion? Well, he wasn't looking at where the market was going to grow when people who hadn't thought, I'm not going to go out with my friends because they drink too much and I don't want to have to drive, or I'm tired of being the designated driver,
Yeah.
or I'm going to have to wait for a cab and get into a cab when I don't know it. Particular issue for people who feel more vulnerable and potentially should at 1 in the morning leaving a bar, right? At least
Yeah.
with one of these services, Uber or Lyft or any of their competitors, there's a tracking mechanism to know who was called when and where, as opposed to getting into, oh, that's a cab I'll hail. So that
Yeah.
person completely missed the boat on it isn't about a $2 billion opportunity today. It's where does this grow and how many offshoots can we do? Can we get restaurant delivery? Can we get pharmaceutical delivery? What are all the other pieces? So that was somebody who couldn't think in terms of
Mm.
uncovering opportunity, despite the credentials that hung on the.
Yeah. Right. Wow. That's a really good example. And what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to suggest to our viewers that they take a peek at your book. You got to get it. It's available on Amazon, and it's available at Apple Bookstore, Barnes and Noble, blah blah blah. If you can buy a book, you can buy the Chutzpah advantage. My mouse just stopped right there. Anyway, because we're about to run out of time. And really quickly, in the shortest amount of time, which is so hard, are there different types of chutzpah? I mean, it's that person that goes out there and does what they need to do. But is there kind of, I mean, we talked about Mother Teresa and Steve Jobs and how they had a lot in common. But is there a different one? Is there differences between like my chutzpah and yours? Or
I will say that there are two major categories that break off into segments. One is constructive or good chutzpah. The other is destructive, or
Mm,
what I call self-serving chutzpah. The same skill set that you learn in the book can be used for good or bad purposes. Think about it. For example, computer software programming. I can take courses, become an exceptional software programmer, and I can write an algorithm to help with healthcare, or create an enterprise management system, or even something as a calendaring thing to make us more efficient. Or I can write ransomware and shut down the oil pipeline while waiting for $10 million ransom on the east coast of the US.
mm,
Okay, it's the same skill set. It's how we choose to use it. So, two major categories. On the positive side, I have what I call win-win chutzpah, which is Steve Jobs and what our listeners do as entrepreneurs. I'm going to create something. I'm going to work extra hard. I'm going to invest and take risks because you will benefit and I will benefit. Then
yeah.
the Steve Jobs is win-win, but also what I then call the chutzpah on steroids. Okay,
Yeah.
and then the other the other piece in that is other serving chutzpah on the constructive side, and that would be Mother Teresa. So
Okay.
people who are very big on my life's purpose is to help others, to help the planet, to help animals, to make a change in how people are educated, employed. I want a better world. That's going to be my legacy. That's other serving chutzpah.
Yeah.
On the negative side, for example, I have, well, I don't know what to say, it's all negative, but certainly self-serving chutzpah. Bernie Madoff was a perfect example of that. When he
Mhm.
started his company, which stole billions and billions of dollars from good organizations and good people who trusted, He didn't start with that as the intention, but he used his chutzpah skills to build a company, then fell upon hard times, and before he knew it, this is the easy solution. And it started getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
That's what people do. They can use it for, I actually have a great example in the book of two companies in New York. One is related to healthcare and fitness. The other is a drug dealer, and how those same skills are used to create both businesses.
Right.
There's a punchline or something that I don't want to share relative to those businesses, but people have to read the book. Another one is what I call political chutzpah, which is the idea that regardless of what party you're from, and there are good politicians and there are very self-serving politicians who I'm embarrassed by, that they can say one thing to you because they feel you have a set of priorities that are different to mine, may even be opposite to mine. That's okay. We can communicate. And then they'll come to me and they'll tell me, oh, Mason, what you want, that's completely what I support. It's like bold-faced lies and hypocrisy. That's too often part of political chutzpah.
Yeah.
That's why when we find a politician who truly is different, I kind of get really intrigued. Not that I agree with everything, but it's like, somebody willing to stretch boundaries, take risks, fail. That's important to me.
Yeah.
And then there's a sick category that I call oivei chutzpah, which is just a great story. And it's like, nobody's really hurt, but it's like, wow, that was a pretty bold move. And there's a good story that I call actually, you can Google this, the fake Sports Illustrated kid reporter. It's about a gentleman that I interviewed who's a comedian. And when he was a kid, he used to get seats at Madison Square Garden because he and his father had concocted this scheme where he was a Sports Illustrated kids reporter. The dad was the photographer who was assigned to go along, make sure that everything was kosher. They'd get into locker rooms, they'd get front row seats, they'd get into the press box, and it was all a fun scam. And he has a wonderful memorabilia collection with autographs.
I'll bet he does. I'll bet he does.
He actually wrote an article in Sports Illustrated about it. Now, many years later.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's a great one. I love that. Nobody was really hurt, but okay, we're just gonna. That was a long time ago, and he was a child, so we'll just let it go for that. Well, we are out of time, Mason. What happened? It just flew. And I want to make sure that everybody has Mason's information so they can contact him. Mason Harris, and he is Mason at thechutzpahguy.com. Here's his website, thechutzpahguy.com. And he's on LinkedIn under Mason Harris Listens. So you want to make sure you jump in, take a look at it, get the book. It's not just great information, it's a good read, and there's things in there that will enlighten you. Light bulbs will flash all over the place because there's things that you might want to know and use and develop your chutzpah, guys and gals. Get out there and do it. And for those of you who don't know who I am, I coach women entrepreneurs. I help them find what they're worth, and I help them find their perfect client. So Mason and we're on the same road trying to build a better world through helping others. So Mason, you're fabulous. If I can be of any help to anybody, there's my information. And until next Tuesday, everybody get out there, inspire your business, do great things, and find your chutzpah. Great stuff. Thank you, Mason.
Thank you, Dana, and especially for everything you do for your listeners, because you're really making a difference.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.